Hey guys, Scott at Modeler X. Well, a kit came in that captured my interest. Everything else got put on the sidelines. It is the Zvezda 2700th Star Destroyer. A very nice kit. And I'd like to bring you up to speed of where we are and go over a couple of lighting things I'm going to give a shot at. So here we go. So if you're working on this kit, you know she's a big one. To quote Admiral Greer from The Hunt for Red October, she's a big son of a bitch. And so far, we have the front and rear sections of both the top and the bottom put together. I did order the hanger kit and the engine bell kit, waiting for those. We'll cut that out and obviously replace the bells on the back, which you haven't even gotten to, other than just did a little drilling out of those areas for LEDs insertion. The trenches along each edge still need to be done, and I'll get to that in a second, how I'm dealing with the sort of the main operations area leading up to the conning tower. On this piece right here, which is the top half, we have begun that process, which is primarily these detail pieces just glue onto a flat surface that sort of leads up to that area, and then there are various caps that go on top of it. What I've been doing is with these little, let's take this piece for instance right here, which is just that piece. I've been laying it on the bench and then doing all of my drilling out of these holes with a number 75 wire drill bit. Sort of a combination of pin vise and then also using a Dremel. Sometimes if it makes sense, I'll sort of start the pilot with the pin vise and then use the Dremel with the same size 0.75 and drill the rest through. Kind of goes a little bit quicker. On the inside of these flat pieces, you have to, and I've been taking a drill bit and cutting out areas on the back here where the windows actually come through, and then we're going to put some 0.02 fiber optic segments, maybe about an inch, maybe a half inch, just to lead from the outside to the inside, where our inside light source will be picked up and carried through to the outside. And repeated that process on the back right in here, and it wasn't too much on the front. And then the only other modification was drilling that hole right there, which is going to bring the wiring from the upright conning tower bridge down into the area where our main power is going to be. As for the building up of this sort of main deck area, here's the next segment that lays on top of that. Added a little bit of the tulip stuff. There's a light leak right in there, which this piece just doesn't butt up nicely, as a lot of the other areas overlap with the styrene assembly, and the light leaks are, I'm hoping, pretty well taken care of. The same technique in this area. The windows were drilled out in various areas along here, and then in the back area right there. And then on the inside, you can see there's a little more light black material, but those areas have been drilled out so that the window holes reach the inside of this. We'll obviously be painting all of this light blocking with a coat of white after I'm done with this segment. We've begun our internal wiring for lighting. There's a couple of segments of LED strip here, which is going to light up the sort of vertical column that heads up to the bridge area. These are going to light the inside of the vertical panels, which these fit really well. Let's see here. If I can get this on. See that these sort of slide in just like this. And as we head up to the bridge area, that sits kind of like right on top of there. But there's some window holes drilled into various areas here, and obviously those LED lights, which it's sort of stair-stepped. This this strip connects to this one, and then this one goes down and goes in that hole that I showed you on the top of the main hull. And then we get up to the actual bridge itself, which I kind of wanted to hit with a couple of lighting techniques that I'm working. Here are the rest of the pieces, which is the top and the back side, and a couple of front panel and top panel of that stem that came up. And then there's obviously the front part of the bridge. This has all been drilled out with holes, which you can see them kind of going along right there and there. And we're going to use the same piece of .02 fiber optic to go inside of those. And then as for the actual lighting of the bridge area itself, we've laid down some LED strip on the bottom, and then along the back to point forward. There's some holes drilled into the back, and holes drilled into the side, and then a couple on the underneath. Here's main power coming out the bottom, which will go down and through the holes and into the main hull area where we get our power from. And these LED strips have just been daisy chained from here to here, and then through the centerpiece to here. So now let me get the soldering iron out, and we will connect a couple of pieces that are, number one, going to create a little flood lamp effect. I know you've seen that through the horizontal trenches along the main hull. There's a couple other areas where there's sort of instead of a pinhole light window sort of thing, it's a flood lamp effect, and so we'll go into that in just a second, so hang tight. So there's two effects that I'd like to create up here on the bridge area. Number one, there are a few of the window lights, and they may not be windows, I don't know, maybe they're reactor holes or whatever, but in any case they show up on the outside of the Star Destroyer as red, and they're pinpoints amongst other white lights. And we're going to accomplish that through, you can take a look here, this is one of those lighthouse 2mm LEDs. This one is red, and we're going to build some fiber optics onto the top of it. You can see there's some heat shrink around that sort of lighthouse piece, and then I filled that with the not CA glue, the white, name's escaping me, canopy glue, and put the three pieces of .02 fiber optics inside of there. And there's three pieces of fiber optics for this particular lens, and then I put a smaller piece of heat shrink around those and butted that up, as you can see, against the top of the wider heat shrink. What I generally did was take a hot soldering iron, just wave it right near it, and I run my soldering iron at 750, and just sort of you gotta be patient and just don't touch the heat shrink, but just roll it around that area, and you'll see it start sort of crinkling and getting shrinking down around the fiber optics. But just be real careful around the fiber optics. You can't use a flame like a lighter, which is what I normally use if I'm heat shrink around wires. Don't do that, because you'll more often than not ruin the fiber optics, because they're just too sensitive to heat. So now we've taken that piece and glued it down with hot glue, and it's got a 560 ohm resistor attached to the plus lead, and then just black wire, the wire wrapping wire on the negative lead. And so what we want to do is we want to connect this to the strip wire here. And so I'm just going to, let me get my glasses, remember I put them. So now the goal here is to get some solder onto this lead. A little ball there, just like that, and that works perfectly. So you can see that working out. And now, next step is to get these wires, and I do want to trim these to be real hardly any length on these other than to get it into, come on baby, hardly any length other than to just touch that little ball of solder we got created on the tape there. Now let me grab a pair of tweezers and we're going to take the negative lead first. Oops, and don't get out of frame there. Alright, come on. Could use a little more length on that one. Alright, there we got that one. Probably blocking the light here, doesn't help. So then the other one, we'll just touch that in there, like that. So now, see those two pieces are connected. Let's see if I can put a little more light on that. Those two wires are connected to the strip tape. And if we connect the strip tape to power, 9 volts, cross our fingers, and the see that's connected there, LED there, and then we get our 3 fiber optics coming through there. So now the next step is to feed the fiber optic pieces down into where we want them to go. Okay, so now if we look at the outside, we have a fiber optic, 2 of them coming out the bottom and 1 of them coming out the side. And if we sort of cut these, not all the way, I'm going to leave about a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch on each one of these. Now we sort of cut those down to size, and let's test this with power again. There we go. Now we have fiber optics, excuse me, coming out the side here, and then also out the back. Alright, so we got the rest of the lighting all attached to power inside, and I have taped the front and tops on, so maybe we can give this a little test run. And connect it to a 9-volt power. All the stuff inside is resistor, so we should be good to go. And you can see we got a little twinkly stuff going on there, but that's that'll get solved when we put in the LED, or excuse me, the fiber optics. There's the end cap and the back, and then there's our fiber optics coming through on the bottom. So let's just call this one a wrap, and we will catch you next time on Modeler X.